Thank you all so much again for joining us for another one of our webinar trainings. We primarily do these around Microsoft products because Microsoft as an ecosystem is incredible and has a lot of amazing tools. So we get awesome people like Rob, who I'll introduce in a minute, to come and really give a good overview of different tools. We also have an advanced Teams training coming out soon because we had so much positive feedback on Microsoft Teams. So just a quick reminder, this is a joint effort between multiple IT companies throughout the country, All Tech Services, Data Magic, Global Quest, and Global Data Systems. So we want to provide continuous training for our clients in the community. So feel free when you get these invites to send them out to your end users or anyone you know that might benefit from the training. As you can tell, if you've been on the other ones, this is the least salesy webinars on the planet. It's strictly value and teaching. So before we get started, just wanted to see if anybody from the JAS group wanted to say anything before we get going.
I guess I'll start. I'd like to thank
All
you for
right.
joining. It's a great series we're doing. Look at our websites for upcoming webinars. And Rob, thank you for helping us out with this one. We appreciate it. And any questions during the webinar, please put them in the chat and we'll get them answered at the end of the webinar.
Awesome.
Just good to get some training on all these Microsoft products, making sense of them. There's so many things out there in Office 365. It's hard to know everything. So always go to our website and go to our university, and you can see all of our past webinars, and they provide a lot of value, more times that we do this.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll have past webinars, upcoming webinars. Also on the YouTube channel, you'll see an archive of all the trainings, as well as snippets from some of the best pieces. Awesome. And so now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Rob. Rob has years and years of Microsoft 365 experience, specializing in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So we'll probably have him on again on the PowerPoint training because I know I don't know PowerPoint. I just put text on there and make it look pretty. But just a conversation with him the other day talking about master slides and everything else. I'm like, yeah, we need some help on this. So I'm going to pass it off to Rob. Rob, we really appreciate you. Feel free to introduce and jump right in.
Okay, thanks, Tahar.
Yeah.
So my name is Rob. I am a Microsoft Certified Master Instructor for Microsoft Office. I've been using Office for 30 years, worked with over 100 law firms. So I think I know it pretty well. As somebody already said, nobody knows everything, and that's totally true. I keep learning new things about Word. It's not a typewriter. There's really so much more that you can do with it. For today's class, I'd like to hone in on, for the most part, one piece of Word, which is styles. And I know we talked about that. If you have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. But if there's a burning question that you have, yeah, please go ahead and ask, either by unmuting and asking if you can, or put it into the chat. So I know that the invitation included a note about, did you know that you can put bookmarks into a document? So I want to at least show you that, how you do it and why that's cool. And then we'll jump into styles. If you've never used styles before, this is going to potentially rock your world in using Word. Here we go. Share my screen. So here I have a relatively small document. It's just 4 pages long. And I know that because here at the bottom, it tells me that I have 2 of 4 pages. I can also see down here that I have a certain number of words, track changes are turned off. And if you're looking at your Word and you're going, wait a second, I don't have all that information down there. Here's how you can get it. If you just go out to the status bar, which is this gray bar at the bottom of the screen, and just give it a right click, this opens up a whole lot of things that you can put onto your own status bar. So I have checked word count, I've checked track changes, which lets me see whether they're on or off and use that as a toggle. The formatted page number, which is what would the page number look like if it were put onto the document? Like if I did insert page number, what would it look like? Is it a little Roman numeral for a table of contents, for example? What number is it as well? So that can be helpful, knowing what section you're in. That's probably beyond the scope of this session because I want to focus on styles. Just good to know where you are, what style you're using, all those kinds of things. And you can see all kinds of things by opening this up. So for example, if I also want to see caps lock and overtype, click here. That'll let me see the caps lock. This will let me see the overtype. And now I'll just click off of this drop down, or actually drop up, I suppose. And I'll click back into the document area. So let's go back in here for a second. Yeah, so there's overtype, which I just put on, and overtype is now showing up here as insert. So if I were to go here and press the insert key on my keyboard, it would be the same as clicking this, and it lets me go into something called overstrike. So that as I'm typing, I'm actually overwriting the characters instead of inserting them. And this just lets me know what mode I'm in. So let's talk a little bit about those bookmarks, and then we'll get into styles. So what is a bookmark? How is it useful? There are a few really good reasons to use bookmarks. One of them is you sort of have to. You want to do something called cross-referencing to a specific word or a paragraph that's not numbered. You can also use bookmarks just as navigation. So for example, if I go to right here where it says confidential information as a receiving party, maybe I want to turn that into a bookmark. I'll just select that text, and on the insert tab, insert, there's bookmark. So I'll just click bookmark, and Word gives me the bookmark dialog box, and I'm going to give this a name. I'll just call this CI. That stands for confidential information. To me, you can name these whatever you want, but they need to start with a letter, and you can sort these by name and location. We only have one of them in there so far, so there's no point in sorting. And I'll just click add. Now you can see, I'll zoom in here so you can see it more easily. You'll see that Word puts these brackets around the bookmark, where that is, the open here and the close here. And you'll only see these brackets if you go into File and Options and Advanced. And right here is an option that says Show Bookmarks. If you don't turn this on and it's off by default, then they just don't show up. But you can go into File, Options, Advanced, and then here, Show Bookmarks. And I'll click OK to close the dialog box. So now if I'm anywhere in the document and I want to go to that bookmark, so let's say I'm up here working on something, I can press Control G. G is go to. Go to what? Well, I want to go to a bookmark. And then here is a list of all the bookmarks in the document. And I just click Go to, and there it is. So that's one way of using bookmarks. There are also other ways of using bookmarks. As I mentioned earlier, there's something called a cross-reference. And you can make a cross-reference that says, for example, if I have something on a particular page, I can say, see the table on page 19, and I don't have to know what page that's going to wind up on because the number is actually a cross-reference to where that is. And I can go over that if anyone is especially interested in that. If you ever have a document where you're pointing to other pieces of the document, other paragraphs, other blocks of text, charts, and things like that, then you can bookmark those and then cross-reference them. Let's talk about styles. Styles are one of the most important things that separates a professional Word user from an amateur. If you have never used styles before, like I said, this will probably rock your world in terms of using Microsoft Word. So this document is styled. It doesn't have a lot of styles in it. But let's talk about first, what is a style? I'm going to open up the style pane by going to the Home tab, and you'll see there's this whole block of styles. Wow, this must be important. It's taking up about half of the Home tab. So there's got to be something that's worth using here. You may have seen these before. You may have clicked on one and said, oh, okay, I don't really want to use that. Or no, that's not right. Or, okay, yeah, I could use this one. It looks all right. But how do you really use these? What are they good for? Especially the heading styles. A style is a collection of formatting that has a name. That's really all it is. And I'm going to open up the style pane by clicking here on this launcher that's at the bottom right-hand corner of the styles group on the Home tab. There's also a keyboard shortcut, as it says here, which is Alt-Control-Shift-S. S is for styles. And I'll just click this to open it up. And here I have the styles pane over on the right. Typically, the styles pane will open like this, and it's this kind of small box, but if you double click on the word styles, it will dock it over on the right. And I'm going to do that now. So just double click where it says styles, and that docks it over on the right. Here I have a list of the styles that are in the document, and at the bottom there are some other buttons and so on. But let's talk about what is a style. I'm just going to click on this paragraph in the document, and I can see that this paragraph is styled using a style called heading 1. Let's say, for example, I wanted all of my headings to be not this set of formatting, but maybe I want it to be a bit different. What most people will do in Word, if they see something that they don't like, is they will select it, and then they'll go, all right, I don't want this. I don't want to use small caps. I want it to be a different color, right? So they'll pick a different color. Maybe I'll go with this green. And they might say, oh, I want it to be a little bit larger. And then also, I want this to be a little bit spread out. So I'm going to space it out a little bit and expand it. Okay, that looks really good. I like how that looks. Okay. And then also I want a little bit more space around it. So maybe you even know how to use this paragraph and say, I want a little bit more space before it. So I'm going to say I want 12 points before it. And I want to use keep with next. And we'll talk about what all these things mean. So keep with next and okay. Great. So they've done that for one paragraph. Well, there are other paragraphs in this document that I want to look exactly the same as this. Because this is a style, and I've just modified this one paragraph, now I can actually go to the style and say update heading 1 to match the selection. Click, and now the entire document, every single heading 1 has that same formatting throughout the document. It doesn't matter if it's 2 of them or 90 of them, it's just as much work. So that's part of the power of using styles. Hopefully some of you are going, wow, that's pretty cool. And of course, if I want to, I can actually go in here and
That's
and
pretty
just
cool.
modify the style.
No, this is pretty awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah. And we'll talk about how to create styles and so on too. So let's say I realize, oh, you know what, too stretched out and that green is too bright. So I can just also come over here and either click here to modify, or I can go up to the top here, right click modify. They both go into the same place. Anytime you see ... in Windows, you're going to get a dialog box. That's just a thing. So I'll click here and this will open up the modify style dialog box, which tells me that, so this is font 14 point, bold, font color green, expanded by 1 point. It's indented left 0. It's got a hanging indent of 0.5. It's justified, space before 12. So I can see the whole definition of the style in this little, there's a lot of stuff going on in this style. And this one's important here where it says based on normal, and we'll come back to talking about normal. So let's say I want to change this a little bit. I want to make my color a darker green. So I'll select that here. I want to make my font not quite so big. I want to go to, I liked it at 12 and it is bold. Maybe I want to underline it. And I'm going to come here to format. You can, anything that's available here is part of the style. Font, paragraph, tabs, border, language, frame, numbering. You can assign a shortcut key to apply a style. I'll just come here into paragraph, which opens the regular paragraph dialog box. But I'm not just modifying a single paragraph here, I'm actually modifying the paragraph formats of the style. So here I might want to say that I want to also include keep lines together. And I want my spacing to be a little bit less before. Maybe I want this to be 9 points before and maybe 3 points after. And again, this is for the whole style. So now as soon as I click OK here and OK here, the document updates. So now all the paragraphs that use that style I've now changed. Let's talk about the normal style. This is the normal style. Typically, when someone gets a document and they don't like what it looks like, they'll just select the whole thing and pick a different font. For example, right? I might not want all these serifs. Maybe I think it looks too formal, but there's a cost to doing that. One, of course, is that the document becomes harder to modify because everything is formatted one by one. And also, you're putting on something called direct formatting. So if I take this paragraph and I say, oh, I don't like that font, I'm just going to come in here and make it Calibri. Word goes, okay, I will let you do that because it's a nice program. It's being polite. But what's happening is that every single one of these characters is now being told 2 different things at the same time. the paragraph style that's here says that this is Times New Roman, right? If I come in here and look at the definition of no spacing, I can see that the font here is Times New Roman, but at the same time, I'm telling Word, well, all of these characters are Calibri. So if you've ever been in that situation where you're typing along and all of a sudden the font changes, right? It goes back to Calibri. I don't want Calibri. Stop it, Word. Well, it's because you're telling Word two different things at the same time, and Word has to figure out what you're trying to do. If I wanted all of my document to be in this font, the right way to do that is to change normal. So if I go to normal and I say modify, and I say that this is Calibri, okay. So now this paragraph changes, this paragraph changes, this paragraph changes. This one didn't. Why? Well, because no spacing, part of its definition is that it's Times New Roman. So in this particular case, I'm going to come here and modify this one too. Modify. The not as good way would be to say that that this is Calibri. Probably the better way would be to come here and say that this style is based on normal, as most styles should be. So I'll say that this is based on normal. And now I can come here and take off this direct formatting and say that this is Calibri. So now when normal changes, so will this. And I'll say, okay. And now the whole document is using Calibri and there's no competition. In other words, it really is Calibri. It is, and it is. The style is using Calibri and it's formatted directly to use that same font. Does that make sense? So here's another great thing about using styles. If I press Control F, which will open up the navigation pane, Control F used to be find, and you can still use it for find. But if I come here and click on headings, this now shows me a complete listing of all the headings that are in the document. So here I have background and definitions and confidentiality obligations and so on. Maybe I want to switch general provisions and confidentiality obligations. All I have to do over here is just grab this and drag it up to here. Done. Or I could say I want to switch this one and this one. Just drag things around. They'll switch. We pull this one down to here. So how do you make a style? I'm going to go into a brand new document. Control N. N is for new. So now I'm in a brand new document. There's no text here. There are styles. Every document has styles in it already. There's a style for the footnotes. There's a style for the header. There's a style for normal text. There's a style for heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, title, subtitle. And you'll see these when you just open up Word. They're sitting in there. Every document has them. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut here. It's not really a keyboard shortcut. It is a shortcut. This is a way of getting what's called Greeking into your document. Greeking is text that's used to fill spaces. And if you just type equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and press enter, Word just says, okay, here's some paragraphs for you. The default is 5 paragraphs. As you can see, that's what you get by default. But if you put some numbers inside of here, so for example, if I wanted 50 paragraphs, I could type 50 inside here. And at the end, press enter, and now I have 50 paragraphs. So it's just a way of filling up space with text. And I now have 5 pages in my document. I can see that down here in the status bar.
Yeah, I didn't even know Word had any like formulas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't even know that was a thing in Word.
Oh, yeah, it certainly is. And Word also has, while we're talking about formulas, there are also literally formulas for adding numbers and so on inside tables. There are also fields that can say, tell me what's the name of this document or what's the date or other things like that, beyond the scope of this class of styles. But yeah, so those are insert, put parts, field. So that's probably a whole class just talking about fields. Back here in our document, let's say, for example, I want to put in do sort of subtitles as I'm walking through. So I'm going to come back to the Home tab. And all of these paragraphs are currently styled with normal. Now, normal is a special style. As we saw before, normal is basically the style upon which other styles are based. So if I have heading 1 based on normal, heading 2 based on normal, no spacing based on normal, title based on normal, and then I change normal, everything in the document changes. I like to consider normal is sort of like the director in a play. The director isn't on stage, but the director tells everybody, here's where we are, right? This is taking place in 19th century France. There's this going on. It's this kind of house. It's this kind of family. This is how I want you to appear whenever you come on the screen or onto the stage. Your character is kind of old and sad, or your character is peppy and happy, right? That's all the director. But the director isn't on stage. We don't actually get to see that person when we go to the show. Same thing with normal. So normal could say, I'm going to go here to modify. So normal could include Times New Roman. It could say you are 12 points. I'm going to come here to the paragraph. And it has 12 points after it. And the spacing is at single, and it's left aligned. And I want to do keep lines together. Keep lines together is a setting that says, don't let a page break happen in this paragraph. Keep the lines together on one page. If you're okay with your paragraph getting split onto 2 pages, don't check this. But if you want your paragraphs to stay together on the page, check this. And I'll click OK, and OK. And of course, the whole document jumps. If I want to modify normal, just like before, I can go up here, right click, modify, and go in there and make changes to it. So I would always start with setting normal, and then don't use it. I know that sounds a little crazy, like, what, Rob, what are you talking about? Why would I not use this style that I just made? Well, because if you're using normal in your document and you want to change normal, you kind of can't so easily if paragraphs are using it. I want normal to be separate. I don't want it to be on the stage with all the actors. What I could potentially do here is Control A and apply no spacing. So now my document is completely styled, because I just styled everything in it using no spacing. Now, what if I want to make a style that does have spacing, but isn't normal? So I could select any paragraph, and notice I don't have to select the paragraph literally to affect the paragraph. I'm just in this paragraph, and I'm going to make a couple of changes to it and save it as a new style. I'm going to come up to paragraph and say that I want 12 points after it. And I want to allow the paragraphs to break across the page. Okay. And now I'm going to make this into a style. To create a new style, there are a couple of ways. One way is to right-click on the paragraph that you want and just go here to Styles and create a style. You can also do this up here and say create a style. They both do the exact same thing. Me personally, I generally do it right here in the document. Right-click, Styles, New Style, create a style here. And I'll click this Modify button. So what do you want to call this style? Well, I want to call this body text. What kind of style is it? Well, it's a linked style. It's paragraph and character. You can have styles that are just the character, which basically is format font. You can have styles that are just the paragraph, which is format paragraph. Or you can have a style that is linked, which is both paragraph and character. This is based on no spacing, but I'm going to make it based on normal directly, so that if I change normal, this will change directly. And the style for the following paragraph is also going to be body text. This means that when I'm typing in body text and I press the enter key, the style that's waiting for me on the screen to continue typing is body text. Do these always match? Not necessarily. Maybe I want heading 1 to be followed by heading 2, or maybe I want question to be followed by answer, or maybe I want heading to be followed by subheading, right? So you can set that up automatically so that as you press the enter key, Word is ready there with the next style waiting for you. Once I've got this, I'll click OK. And I've now created a new style called body text, which shows up here in the style group on the Home tab. And now if I want to, I can Control A and apply body text to the whole document. So right now Word is smiling upon me because I have no direct formatting in this document. There's no conflict going on. So everything that looks a certain way is that way.
Looks like we got a question here. I just wanted to address real quick, if that's okay. Scott asked, can ChatGPT or AI be used for styles, format, and Word? And one thing I wanted to comment on this real quick, and then Rob, if you have anything to add, Microsoft's rolling out, and you may have already seen it on certain applications, a AI tool called Copilot. So ChatGPT is obviously by OpenAI. They have wonderful plugins, lots of things that it can integrate with. Microsoft's kind of building its own, just like Google is with Bard. And Copilot is going to be taking all of the applications that you're used to using and integrating AI into it. And with Word specifically, it really helps primarily if you write and complete paragraphs and sentences. A lot of it is around the grammar and punctuation, making sure it's as accurate and informed as possible. But yes, and there may already be in Copilot ability to do some formatting. So even if you just have basic word knowledge, be able to create cooler looking layouts, more advanced layouts. Now, how that's done won't necessarily be covered in this unless Rob has some experience with it. But we do have Microsoft Copilot training coming out in 2024 once it's a little more mature and once we really have a little more data on it to really make sure we can go harder in explaining Copilot and how it can help out. Very high level overview and all the different applications, and then we'll be diving a little deeper. When will Copilot be
Yeah.
available? I think it's already available. Rob, do you know?
I don't know. I'm a bit old school. I still have books, but but also I have not yet played much at all with AI or ChatGPT. I think it's fascinating and scary at the same time. I also am very curious about how AI will, and of course it depends on which program you're using, but how AI will take advantage of Word's built-in power, such as styles.
Yeah, and so it looks like it's actually in beta in June, but will be coming out later this year. And you'll just notice Copilot. That's why we're going to do training on it, because everyone's going to start noticing it. Yes, it will be included with Microsoft 365. That's one thing I'll always give Microsoft 365 credit for is, yeah, they did do a price increase like 2 years ago, and it was, a couple dollars a piece, which is never fun. But the amount that they've added and continue to add into the platform almost monthly is kind of insane. And so when they roll out something like Copilot, they usually just include it in the suite because the subscription base is their lifeblood. And so they really pack in so much value. That's why we do trainings on Microsoft Bookings and Microsoft Forms, and Microsoft OneNote and Teams and Advanced Teams and Word. And everyone thinks of the Office products or Microsoft 365 as the Office products, but there is a plethora of applications where a lot of our clients, they don't really even leave the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. I know Global Quest too, they even do Teams phones where the VoIP is on in Microsoft Teams, the phone system Microsoft Teams, the chatting internally, sometimes chatting externally, sharing documents externally. Some of our clients' applications are right there integrated into Teams. So it's just Microsoft's such a powerhouse for productivity, and this isn't a sales thing. Most of the people on this call are clients, and it's us really wanting them to see all the opportunity in it. So that was kind of a long answer, but yes, it will be part of Office 365 subscription. And as we get close to that date, Scott, you'll be we'll send you an email as we roll out that training as well. One thing I was hoping you could do before we get to Q&A, obviously keep doing what you were doing, but if you have like, maybe like tips and tricks in Microsoft Word, some things that just low hanging fruit stuff that people may not even realize are a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll do a little bit of that right now while it's top of mind. So let's talk a little bit about selecting text. Really, Rob? Selecting text? Everyone knows how to do that. Well, do you know how to do this? Just I'm going to click. Now I've selected a sentence. So why is it a big deal selecting text? Well, if you want to do anything, you have to select it. Bold, copy, delete, move, anything, right? You have to know how to select the text. And the more time you take to drag through something and go, oh, wait, no, I want the period, da, da, da. Right, we've all dealt with this. It's jumping around. So here's what to do. If you want to select a word, double click. If you want to select a paragraph, triple click. Or you can go out into the left margin and double click. If you want to select a line, go out into the left margin and single click. If you want to select a sentence, control click. And if you want to vertically select, you can alt drag. Why would you ever want to do this? Well, sometimes you get a document and somebody's put a whole bunch of tabs in there. Here's a word, tab, 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 tab. Here's another word, new line. Here's a word, tab, 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 tab. Here's another word, right? How do you just get rid of all those tabs? Well, you can select vertically through them like this. Every once in a while, it's exactly what the doctor ordered. And again, that is, I'm just holding the Alt key and then dragging. So it just lets you drag vertically instead of the typical horizontally. Another wonderful shortcut that I use a lot is moving a paragraph. The house is red and white. Let's say I want to move this paragraph down a couple of paragraphs. Done. No copy, no paste, no drag, no nothing. I'm just using the keyboard. How? Alt and Shift, and then the arrow keys. So Alt Shift up, 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 or Alt Shift down, down. And these shortcuts that I'm showing you for selecting text and also moving paragraphs like this will also work in Outlook HTML messages, which most of them are by now. And of course, if you're using a Macintosh, the keyboard shortcuts may be slightly different. So it might be something like Command Shift up and down. I'm not sure what those are, but maybe we can dub those in or have them as a little note at the bottom.
If you're using a Apple Pro Vision VR headset, what you would do is click, no, I'm just joking. I'm sure they'll have their own shortcuts.
Here's another nice tip that is related to bookmarks that I showed you earlier. So let's say I come here and I say the house is red and white and has gray shutters. Okay. Now I go somewhere else in my document. I'm just going to scroll down here and I'm going to add something into here. You need to stop reading. I'll just change this to when, and then I'll go somewhere else in the document. And let's say, oh, I just remembered something about that house that I want to say. Shift F5 will take you to your previous edit. And then Shift F5 will again take you to your previous edit. So as you press Shift F5, it's taking you back through the document to previous edits. So here's another place where that will show up. Let's say I'm putting in a footnote. Do any of you ever use footnotes? At some point, you'll use footnotes. So I'm going to go insert footnote. I'm so used to using the keyboard shortcuts. In this case, it's Alt Control F. I don't always remember exactly where they are. So footnote is a reference. So I'm going to go here, insert footnote. And what this does is it puts a footnote here. Here's the footnote reference, and here's where the footnote goes. So I could say this is a footnote. And now if I press Shift F5, it takes me right back up into, that's one of the things that I noticed with Evergreen software. There it goes. See, it's going back up there now. So when software is evergreen, meaning that it keeps changing, like Microsoft Office does, it can be hard to teach it and a little hard to document it at times because it keeps changing. It's wonderful that they keep changing it and bringing in new features. And at the same time, what happens when somebody says, okay, Rob, can you build a class on what's new between Office 2013 and this particular build of Office 365? Okay. So
Yeah.
now I have to go back and research both of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing how much is added all the time. Like on my Outlook app now, instead of just email and calendar, now there's tasks and what is other people in my team doing with their email. It's pretty interesting. It just does it, right? And so in the past where it's like, oh, people, companies are reluctant to change. Well, one beauty of the subscription model is it just does it anyway. And I mean, it's painful at first because you're like, oh, all this change, but it also is like, hey, these things are usually a better thing, like the focused inbox versus other inbox. Some people hate it, but that makes my life extremely easy in Outlook because somehow, I don't know how, they know what is focused, what I need to pay attention to and what I don't. So I usually get in there and delete everything because there's almost never something that I need to read. And that was just a rollout. They're like, hey, I'm just rolling this out now. Scott has a question, which actually I have this question too, because I always mess up here. Is there a trick to number paragraphs throughout a document? Example, different sections using different numbers and Roman noodle. Sorry, Roman numerals. He's like, I'll do that too, where I have like, okay, the main, and then it'll be like ones, and after that it's like A's. I'm like, well, crap. Well, how do I get back to the numbers rather than the letters? And how do we?
Yes, that's a great question, and I will address that. But I do want to point out to you, when I put in this footnote, I'm going to open up the style pane, and you'll notice here, so this footnote, I'm going to go here to options, and I want it to show all the styles that are in the document, and I want them to be sorted alphabetically. This is a dialog box that you can get by clicking here on options in the style pane. So this footnote is automatically styled with footnote text. I didn't apply that, it just is. So as I'm putting footnotes in, they're all getting styled in their own style. So this means if I want all my footnotes in this 90-page document to be 6 points and italic and whatever, all I have to do is change footnote text, and only the footnotes and all the footnotes become that format. Done. I don't have to select them. I don't have to do anything, just change the style. And any new ones that get created will use that same format. So I could come in here and say modify, and I want these to be, let's say, 9-point italic. Okay. So this is a footnote. And now I make another footnote. Control F is another. And it's automatically styled. We're just doing this to help you. All right. So now if I want to change the footnote, how they look, all I have to do is just change this and they all change. So back to that other question, and I realize we're kind of closing in on the hour here. So there's a lot more to cover with styles, but the question that you're asking is a style question. So I'm going to come back to my other document. All right, so here we are. And once you have these set up properly, and there could be a whole class just on outline numbering. So here is heading 1. Here is heading 2. And I have heading 2 restarting based on heading 1. Where am I doing that? There's a button here for outline numbering. And you'll notice that the style set that is being used here is using these heading styles. So this is the current list, as it says up here, current list. I'm going to click on it. So you can see it here. Now, if I want to modify this, I'm going to right click on one of these numbers and go to here where it says adjust list indents, ... which will open up a dialog box. And here, each of the levels of numbering is assigned to a heading style. So there's heading 2, there's heading 3, there's heading 4, 5, and so on. And if I open up this by clicking more, this level is linked to heading 5. So if I change heading 5, it will change everything that's using 1.1.1.1.1. So I'm going to say OK here, because everything's OK here. I just wanted to show you that the heading styles are part of styles, that exact question you're asking. So if I'm here and I want to put in 1.1, I'm going to press the Enter key. And I might realize, oh, you know what? After every heading 1, I want there to be a heading 2. So I'm going to set that up. So I'm going to say heading 1. I'm going to modify it and say that the style for the following paragraph, again, in other words, when I'm pressing the enter key and I'm using this style, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to say the style that follows is heading 2. Okay. So now when I'm here and I press the enter key, okay, let's maybe try putting in a new heading 1 just to, so there's that. And of course it renumbers all these. Enter, there it is. There it is. So for whatever reason, it wasn't quite hearing me, but now when I press the enter key, so there's my 2.1, and I could put in some text here. This is some more text, right? And then of course I could say for heading 2, modify, I could say that this is also followed by heading 2, so that I can keep pressing enter and keep putting in more heading 2s. Okay, so this is more text. Hello, enter. The other house is blue. Enter. And now let's say I want to go back to heading 1. Well, all I have to do is go over here and pick heading 1. Now I'm here. So this could be colors or whatever this would be. Enter. There's 3.1. Okay. And if I want this to not have a number on it at all, then I would come back to no spacing or body text or whatever style I've applied there. And so now I can just type. All right. And now if I want another heading 1, just come over here and pick heading 1. And now I've got my 4 and keep going.
Wow. I need to start using the style box way more.
Yeah.
This is
A lot of
great.
people don't know that this whole thing exists, and they're working too hard and they're making Word work too hard. If you've ever had a document go corrupt on you, it happens less now that Word is coding everything into HTML, XML. The documents are less likely to go corrupt. But if you've ever had a document go corrupt on you, you know that it's bad news. And one of the quickest ways to get a document to go corrupt is by not using styles and putting direct formatting all over the place. And whenever you bring information in from, say, a website, just go ahead and style it. So now if I want to, I could create a table of contents very easily based on this. And then I probably have to jump off to another class. But I'll just put this in very quickly here. Just to show you that I'm going to go to references, table of contents, custom table of contents, options, and I can say here which styles are being used to create the table of contents. And by default, heading 1 is level 1, heading 2 is level 2, and so on. So let's say I don't want anything other than 1. So I want it to show my outline levels. I'm creating a table of contents from styles. Okay, done. Table of contents. So, and all of these are hyperlinks to paragraph. So if I control click on this 3 for definitions, I'm now at definitions. So that's a quick intro to some of the things you can do with styles, as well as some tips and tricks in Microsoft Word.
Love it. Well, it's been good, Rob. It's
Yay.
opened my eyes to how wrong I've been doing Word. And I have a feeling PowerPoint's going to be similar. If you're running into friction when doing a Word document, default to the style page and the style box and how it can be used. Well, I know we're coming up on time. Everybody, we really appreciate you joining today. Hope this was helpful. you can visit the website or the YouTube channel of the IT provider that invited you. We have lots of these coming. We do one a month. We might even bump that up. No one has any questions or anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Rob, so much. Thank you, everyone, for being on, and we'll see you on the next one.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Taher, and thanks everyone for attending. And I'll just show you one more quickie thing here.
Okay, that's cool too.
That if I take this paragraph, let's see, the 4.1, and I pull it in like this, right? So now this is indented, like I might want all of these. All I have to do here is just update this style to match the selection, and they all move in.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Wow.
So that's part of paragraph formatting. I'm done.
Huh.
The whole document's done.
Huh.
Right, because I'm using styles.
You got style, Rob. You
Yeah.
got style.
Got style.
You got styles.
Okay.
We really
Thanks,
appreciate
everyone.
you. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mike, Shane, Aaron. We'll see you all in the next one.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.